Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
All right. Welcome back. MisFitNation. We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their story to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with MisFitNation. If you're a musician or actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share some of your tips with the MisFitNation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you're a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and share how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you're a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and just share your story with the MisFitNation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or are embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you're a new listener, welcome to the MisFitNation. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast apps and also on our YouTube channel at @_MisFitNation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date with our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show. All right. Welcome to a special Monday night edition of the MisFitNation. It's special for 2 reasons. We got a great guest, and 2, RJ is back with us finally after a year absence. He's back on the mic with us. RJ, welcome back, brother. It's great to have you on the mic and behind camera for us.
Oh, yeah. Good to be back.
So tonight we have a real good guest coming on. She's an extraordinary woman, Gold Star wife, a mother. She's been on an incredible journey, one that many people aren't as strong as her, might not have made it through. She's being the first woman in her family to graduate high school, navigating challenges of being a widow at a young age. She'll inspire you and uplift you. She graduated California Polytechnic State University, CPSU, is not only an environmental sciences and horticultural expert, but also a talented writer, featured in renowned publications such as the New York Times, the Daily Beast. Don't miss this episode. You're going to love to hear her story, and you'll probably be brought to tears by some of it. But without further ado, let's welcome Michelle Black to the show. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's great that we were able to connect. I know we all have busy lives, and it's hard to really get that connection sometimes. But I'm glad I was able to reach out to you and actually talk to you when I was probably 20 minutes from you, of all places, at that time.
Yeah, it was so great hearing that you were here visiting us in Washington State. So I'm just sorry I didn't get to see you while you were here. But
we get to see each other now, and hopefully someday down the road we'll cross again and see our path will see live, and we'll get to see each other at some point, and that'll be awesome. Michelle, I gave a couple sentences about you there. If you don't mind, just take us back and give us a little rundown about you from as far back as you want to go to how all this started to get here.
yeah, so just like you stated, first woman in my family on my mom's side to ever graduate high school, which was a big deal. And went on to college, and afterwards went skiing and ran into this guy, Brian, who I thought was just kind of a weirdo. And we ended up becoming good friends. And before you know it, we were married. And he joined the military. And I don't know how into detail you want me to go right off the bat, but Brian decided to join the service about, I guess we'd been married about 2 years. We got married, no, it was longer. We got married in 2005, and I guess he actually signed in 2009. And so he'd always wanted to be a Green Beret or Navy SEAL. So I figured, why not? That was kind of, after 2008 and the crash and everything, nobody was hiring. So it was perfect timing for him to go in. And we had a young family. So he went in and got bored after a year, decided he wanted to do the Green Beret thing. So he went to SFAS and made it through. And so then we moved to Bragg. And he went through the Q course, finished that, went on his first deployment, came home, went to Ranger school because, of course, the Q course wasn't enough. So he went straight to Ranger school, came home from that, deployed twice. And then second deployment, he was killed over in Africa when their team was ambushed. So that was kind of the beginning of, the bigger story, I guess.
And you left out a pretty vivid point for him coming by. I think it was either SFAS or after Ranger school when he got sick and was misdiagnosed, and he was really bad off until someone finally said, "Hey, this is wrong with you," and took care of him. But it was you who got that eye-opening moment that people really don't look at everything at one time. They just want that body through the school.
Oh yeah. I think that's the thing is, with Brian, you're talking about when he had listeria and he came back from SFAS and he'd eaten all for some reason he was craving watermelon when he was preparing for the course or the SFAS. And so he right before selection, there was this listeria outbreak. And of course, it was all tied to, I think, watermelon or cantaloupes. And so he left. And when he came back, he was so sick, he kept losing weight. And every time I'd take him to the hospital, he'd get turned away. And it reached a point where he couldn't eat anything and he was dry heaving. And he lost another 15 pounds, I want to say. And so for someone who's 6'2", came home from, SFAS already about 10 pounds down to lose another 15. That was pretty scary. So, that was a huge eye-opening moment for me, just as far as care.
Definitely there. And having the two young ones at home at that time too, you having to care for them and then care for the big one at the same time.
Yeah. And the hospital on base just kept saying, well, you're not elderly and you're not a pregnant woman. Therefore, you can't possibly have listeria because your immune system wouldn't be down. And he kept reasoning with him, well, if I just had my immune system hammered at SFAS, it should be down. So, but his unit was getting ready to go to on a deployment. And so they were all prescribed, those antibiotics. And that's really what ended up ending that whole suffering phase there. So
from there, he went to third group after this, right? That's where his first group and only group he was in was third group.
Yeah, he was at third group. We were hoping to go, it's funny, you hope to go everywhere except where you end up. So we ended up at third group and second battalion, and he ended up right into team 12. And that's kind of, he deployed twice with them. Second deployment with 3212, he was killed.
And they were both to basically the same region, right?
Correct. The first time they went to Maradi, Niger, which is southern. It's near the Nigeria border, the border between Niger and Nigeria. And there really wasn't much going on there. And that's kind of, they realized, okay, there's no real reason for us to be here. So the next year they went to Wallam, which is up kind of, I guess they say it's central, but if you look at the way Niger is shaped, it looks almost northern, and it's right near a border they share with Mali, which Mali is very dangerous,
very volatile. Yes.
Yeah.
And when I was reading the book, I was trying to focus on. I was listening to the book and looking on my phone, the map, and trying to see where things were in relation, because we only seen bits and pieces of the story. When it happened, I was working a different job. I wasn't embedded with the military at that time. I was actually working for a veteran nonprofit, so I didn't have the resources I have now. So I was actually looking at my map, doing that, and I said, "Oh, no, yeah, real close to what I would brief soldiers now not to go to." And when I'm teaching them intelligence, beware of this, beware of the X, and they were right there in the middle of the hornet's nest, basically.
Yeah, and I think what was amazing is as I learned more, because really I didn't know all this when he went. But in the aftermath, I'm going, okay, where exactly was he? It's funny how little we don't know or care to know until something like this happens. And so in the aftermath, I was going, okay, where exactly was he? And realizing that, him and, the team captain and everyone, they were telling those higher up the chain, hey, this is dangerous. We should not be in this area. Like you said, it's a hornet's nest. And so why were they being pushed into that area? I mean, it was a completely avoidable incident, and everybody knew it in the aftermath. So,
Everyone knew it, but didn't want to really admit it. That's the worst part of it right there.
correct.
RJ, you got anything on that? I know we keep cutting you off there.
Did you ever find any answers on why they were in that
I
area?
mean, why they were in the area, I think that's kind of the big question. Even the guys on the team, and when I interviewed them, well, what were the orders? And even as I read through the final redacted report, what were the orders? It seemed like the reasoning changed depending on which portion of the report you were reading.
Mm.
And even when I requested to look at the ConOps, because the first ConOp, it was a 3-part mission, so there were 3 ConOps. And the original ConOp was written by the captain of the team. So that, I can look at that, and they were just sent on a 1-day patrol, kind of their standard patrol, up to this area called Tilua. And it was supposed to just be routine mission, civ mil patrol, collect intelligence.
Mm.
Well, the next 2 ConOps were written by those higher up the chain and approved by those higher up the chain. And for some reason, I'm completely denied access to any of those ConOps. Those are not public, correct?
Right.
Because all I keep hearing is that there were no issues with them. But ironically, they did not redact a portion, which they probably would have if they'd realized that they left it in there. A section that says that one of the ConOps was missing the 5 W's. It was missing, I think, 1 or 2 of the 5 W's. Who, what, where, when, where, why. And so, they didn't do a second threat assessment. They didn't do all of these other things. So, and the second threat assessment was needed because they sent the team up to the Mali border originally with a heliborne unit attached, which would have had built-in Casevac and all sorts of, obviously having a heliborne unit attached to a unit. My husband's team would have just been backup, essentially, which was needed in this type of movement, especially up into such a dangerous area. So when that got changed, what happened was the heliborne unit ran into weather. And so what would have made sense is then to look at it and say, hey, we should run another threat assessment and see if the threat has changed to show that they no longer need, this heliborne unit or a QRF. Because at this point, if we send them up there, they're going to be the only team and there's going to be no QRF and no one's going to be able to come to their aid if anything goes wrong. But they didn't bother. And so when the team pushed back and said, hey, this is not safe, they were told, well, that's too bad. You're going anyway and ordered ahead. So, no, I was not really given a reason they were sent up there. And when I asked the guys on the team, it was just kind of, they thought there was a enemy camp up there. And they wanted us to basically go up, exploit the camp, and collect intelligence. And if we happened upon any terrorists, to capture, detain them. And that was kind of what they heard. But really, to push ahead in such a dangerous scenario doesn't make sense. And then to cover it up. So I do know that there was I had who was it? So the lieutenant colonel, who is the one who ordered them finally to go up, and told them that, no, you can't turn around and return to base when the heliborne unit got turned around. Well, when I spoke with him, I think it was almost 7 or 8 months after the incident was the first time I spoke with him. He showed up to my home and he basically said that, well, we thought there might be a hostage held up there. But yeah, I mean, I think it was his excuse, or if that was really his reasoning, then it was selfish, right? Because he gets a promotion and he looks really good if all of a sudden his guys go up there and, hey, look, we just caught this American hostage and found where he's been being held. But the problem with that is that my husband's unit, number one, they weren't the type of unit that you'd send on that kind of mission. You'd grab, the Rangers, Delta Force, or, you'd send somebody else.
Right.
They were there in
Yeah.
country, basically training the locals on, how to run their own operations. They weren't there doing these, hey, we're going to go in and rescue hostage. That was not their mission set. So, I guess
Yeah.
the overall question or answer to your question is no, I was not getting
Yeah.
married.
So, I mean, in the face of not getting, the answers you needed, running into, dead ends, coming up, empty on answers, how did you keep pushing through to kind of basically be your own investigator?
So I think, what kind of happened was initially, we assumed the military is going to be honest with us. And when you're going through grief and there's just this big upheaval, I mean, the most important person in your life is dead. You're just trying to get through. And I think what happened was over time, it was like, and I always say, I wish Brian, it would have been so nice if he just, I experienced it with my dad died, like he just died. Like that was it. There wasn't this, what happened. We knew what happened. And the next day it was over. He was dead. And while that was a lot to deal with Brian and with his team, I was getting knocks on the doors and people showing up to my house, news vans circling my neighborhood, calling my house. My kids thought that the terrorists were looking for us. They thought that's why they were calling. And so, I've got that going on. On top of it, I've got things like a headcam video being released and everybody talking about that, and talking about how dumb the guys were because they should have just kept driving, or why'd they do this? And it's just like, having your worst nightmare is that, as a kid, oh, what if I had my family members killed in front of me? Well, we just had that happen. So you've got these things just piling up, and your one glimmer of hope is at the end of this, they're going to tell you the truth. And you don't actually at that point want anything more bad to happen. So you're not going, I want punishments and I want people held accountable. What you're thinking is, I want to know how we prevent another family from going through this. And I just want to know how he died so I can have that little bit of peace. Like I get he was shot. That's easy. But what did he go through? What did his day look like? What led up to it? And why were they up there? And how can we fix this so another family, I mean, people are going to die in war, but if it's preventable, how can we prevent it next time around? What does that look like? And it wasn't about holding anyone accountable. So when it came right down to it and we get our family brief and they are telling me like, hey, it's okay. We know what happened. It's the team captain and all the guys on the team, like they're at fault. I just went, there is no way these guys were on the ground. And, on top of it, they're telling us, oh, they were, a bunch of cowboys going rogue, trying to hunt down a terrorist. I mean, the idea that a special ops unit would go rogue and to hunt down a terrorist with the level of training and years put in is insane. And if one guy on their team wanted to do that, that wouldn't be a surprise, right? But for an entire team to go, you're right, that's a great idea.
Tally ho.
That's
Right.
that's nuts.
Yeah.
So there's just no way.
Right.
So when they decided that they were going to try and sell that to the family members, and then they went on national TV and basically, I think the final thing was the general, the commander of AFRICOM stated that while all teams on the continent were performing optimally, this team was not indicative of what special operators do. And I think it was that point when I realized, like, okay, so my husband, who was really technically dead because of what your authority figures, at the highest levels, ordered him to do, now he is not, indicative of a special ops soldier. Why? Because he died he died? Like, is that what means he's disqualified now? And so at that point, that's really what drove me, I think, was just that realization that there was not going to be any peace. There was not going to be for anyone. I mean, for the guys on the team who were now being asked to go and re-interview, which meant, okay, they're going to be drawn up on what Article 15.6 is and be facing possibly going into the brig, losing their jobs at the very least. And there was no reason other than they were covering up for somebody else. And I didn't have proof of that at the time, but there's no way in my mind that wasn't what was going on,
100%. And
Yeah.
listening to your book, and right now we're talking to Michelle Black, author of Sacrifice. It's her personal journey and story of what happened to Team 3212 in Niger, and we lost Staff Sergeant Brian Black, Staff Sergeant Dustin Wright, Staff Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson, and Sergeant David Johnson that day. And other guys on the team were also wounded. And like Michelle was just saying, that team was ridiculed and by the armchair quarterbacks on the military experts on the talking head shows. Once that video came out, oh, this is what I would have done. But you're not there. You're not in a soft-skinned vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in a soft-skinned vehicle. That wasn't meant to go into an ambush. You were there for and basically build a country building mission, as most SF guys go and do. So it was obvious what they were there for, but it was not being put out.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and what you saw in the aftermath as the reports came out, right, is you saw what the military was saying happened and what the press was backing up with. And then the DoD would put out these videos of what happened. But they were computer generated. And so everyone's told, well, these guys stopped in the kill zone. They did this, they did that. But that was all according to, those were videos built upon the investigation and what those at the DoD were saying happened. In the end, when I talked to the guys, most of what were in those videos and put out originally, which is, of course, what everybody still believes now widely. So even now, if I go, I'll see that kind of is the narrative. But when I spoke to the guys on the team, that stuff was all completely inaccurate, not that the guys didn't make any mistakes. There's, no one ever does anything perfectly, but they definitely tactically did everything the way they should have. So everything from, they did not stop the trucks, but the trucks got stopped in the kill zone, but that's because, partner vehicles ended up getting scared, backing into them. So there were a lot of things that happened that were just kind of left out or changed just enough to make the public view the team as, incompetent, which is insane.
Definitely. And like I told you when I wrote you, my wife was listening to this with me and she was fired up listening to this. If something like this would happen to me or any of my guys, like Bird was one of my soldiers, while we were deployed, she would have been just like you, on fire and balls to the wall going after people. When I got wounded, I made sure no one else called her. I grabbed the medic's phone. He had a little burner phone. So let me call her before she gets a call from someone she doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I called her, and of course I messed up that phone call, but I got the call because she heard my voice. And I'm still here the next day to call her when I came out of anesthesia. But it worked. But I made sure she heard my voice, so she knew I was alive and I was just wounded. But
Yeah.
you have to. Everyone had those things in place. You didn't get that chance. You didn't get that chance, and your first chance to see anything was the pirated videos from the terrorists, the savages who released it, and that's the horrible way to see things. And Bird just got to see. I think he got to watch Unredacted today, the Unredacted 3212 story that was on Hulu, I believe, and then released. And he got to watch that today, so I made him do some homework on this, so he'd know when he told me to be on the show. So
and
watch it.
Yeah, for sure. And finding out that there's also a book you wrote, and so I kind of want to give a little focus on that. Like, what made you? What made you come out with this book? I know you said that you wanted to. You don't want other families to have to go through similar things you've had to go through, and that's had to be more of a mountain that you can ever imagine. But what gave you the motivation to go through with the whole book?
Well,
And what is it about? Tell the people what it's about. Tell the people what it's about.
So the day after the incident, well, not after the incident, the day after so there were all the briefs. So after the media brief, I realized they were going to bury the guys. And so I talked to the guys and I said, the media is going to come after you. I said, they're going to want to do shows on you. They're going to want to do all this stuff, but they're the ones who first chose to bury you guys. They were right in line. I said, so do you trust them or do you trust me? And so I asked them to give me their story. And I told them I would do the best job with it. And so they did. One at a time, they sat down with me and interviewed with me. And by September, I had everything recorded and had begun writing their story. In fact, that's why you won't see me in the documentary, is because basically me and the boys, I call them boys, they're a lot younger than me. They're not that much younger, but they feel like but they're, like that. It was just kind of this pact, like, you guys trust me, I'll trust you. It was more of a handshake deal, no NDAs or anything. And it was like, you don't speak with the media or interview for the documentary, and I won't as well. And you just got to trust me. And so that's kind of where that went. And so that's what motivated me, because I knew, you can do movies and you can do all these things, but it's like anything. When you've read the book and then you go watch the movie and you go, oh my gosh, it's missing so many important details. It's missing so much truth.
I call that the Hollywood effect.
Yeah. And I thought the best thing we can do is document it in a way that has all the details that really matter and that don't have any of the truths, because we didn't know. I mean, you trust people so much, but then it's like, in the end, it's in their hands. And if it's not their lives, are they going to dramatize it and leave out the fact that, like, are they going to leave you questioning whether or not these guys are innocent in the end? And we didn't know that, And so I told them, if you go with me, I will make sure in the end that whether or not, before I publish it, I think you're guilty, And then at least you'll see it coming.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, we'll be honest. So one at a time, I interviewed them, and by the time I got done interviewing them, I realized, no, they really are just being, scapegoated here. And so then that's when it really became even more important that I be the one who write their story. And so, my book is the only place you find that. You find what actually happened minute by minute on the ground. So
tell the people about. Tell the people I'm quite sure we know, but let them know the name of your book, and give them a little bit about the book.
So the book kind of starts, it goes over, me and Brian's life and what that looked like being married to someone as they're going through SFAS, which is the selection process, Special Forces selection. And as they're going through the Q course and different events that happen, whether it's SEER school or whatever, and him coming back and just how brutal that is. There were times he came back completely dehydrated and beat down, and I'm wanting to go up and, fight different commanders, and he's having to hold me back, and just being the wife and the mom, you want to play both roles in that moment. But so those types of things, and what that looks like to actually be married to a Green Beret, not just but the whole process of becoming one, and how hard that is on the family, how brutal that is to watch as a wife. And then on top of it, him going through the Ranger School and deployments. And I cover me dealing with kids at home because I have a kid on the spectrum, and it was on the autism spectrum. And it was a whole fight just dealing with him at home and balancing that with someone who's deploying, and trying to just keep up on everything. And then I walk you through just things you don't think about when someone is killed in the military. There are so many services, and by that I mean memorial services, and when you get notified, how you get notified, and talking to my kids about it and how horrible that was. That was probably the worst day of my life. It wasn't the day Brian died. It was telling my kids, because they were asleep when he was killed. So I waited until his grandpa was till Brian's dad was there, the kid's grandpa. So I discussed that, and I get into things from, as a Gold Star wife, one thing that I never knew, which is insane, is that when your husband is killed in the military, it's like this whole new world opens up, and suddenly you're invited into the White House, into Congress. People want to hear your opinion on things, and your voice suddenly has a lot more meaning. You really have your voice heard in places you would never expect. So I talk a little bit about that, meeting President Trump, going to the White House, touring, just some pretty incredible things. And then I do get into being in that room with the investigators, and what that looked like, and just how they tried to manipulate the narrative and manipulate the families to try and make us believe these impossible lies, I guess. And then I walk you step by step through the actual ambush, like the days leading up to and following the ambush. So what actually happened minute by minute on the ground, because that was a big thing for us as families. That was so hard to realize we weren't going to get in our family brief. And I think you, as military members, or veterans, that when an incident happens, what matters? What matters is the detailed timeline of events on the ground. You need to know what happened each step of the way, so you can say, okay, here's where we improve, here's what went wrong, here's why this happened, and we need to drill that to make sure that next time that doesn't happen. Well, when suddenly everyone goes, oh, we don't know, we don't have a timeline, that tells me that something's way off if they can't give me even a general timeline. So there wasn't even like a, hey, here's what happened in the morning, midday, afternoon. It was just, well, this is basically what happened over time. We don't have exact times. It was around here. They left the village. But I mean, there was like 1 or 2 times we were given, not like this thing that we just, I need to know they left Wallem at, 6 a.m. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's, so that was a big thing. So I built out the timeline and wrote the story on the ground around that. So there's an actual timeline in there, and gives you, a feel for who these guys are, what they went through, and how hard it was for them having to go through what they went through, including watching their friends die, and then having to unload the bodies off the plane and cover them and hold the services for them over there. So I go through all of that. And then bring me back home. So it's a pretty extensive book.
But, it's needed.
Amazing book.
I'll show
Yeah.
you. I've got a couple copies, and it has
Yeah.
won awards. So here's one of them with their award sticker from the Nonfiction Writers Association. But
Yes.
Sacrifice is the hardback, and then I've got my
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and
it,
then
ladies and gentlemen.
audio.
And
Yeah.
I was walking in Sterling, Virginia when that part came on, when you were sitting in the room with the investigators with your father-in-law, your mother-in-law, and your father-in-law was a former Marine, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. So he kind of knew military stuff, and they tried to play the little I'm talking to people who have no idea what I'm talking about game with you and your father-in-law and mother-in-law, and they ran into a wall, and I was like pumping my fist while I'm walking up there. I was supposed to do a 3 mile run. I wound up doing about an 8, and RJ will tell you that happens to me a lot. And I go into these zones and just keep going. I was pumping my fist, and people looking at me like I was nuts because I was like, "Yeah, get him, get him, get him!" I couldn't stop because I didn't want to end the chapter. So I didn't want to end without ending that chapter, and I got to go the whole way. So I kept going, and I was super pumped up with that, and knowing that you had that in your corner, having a military veteran in your corner that can poke the bear with you and help you out. And he's still, I know you live close to them now, so the boys have that connectivity with their family still. And that's amazing too. And the other thing that my wife was ticked about is what happened with your son in school and the way they treated him, and with when he wrote Niger on the screen, and they were saying that he was using the N-word, the actual N-word. And she said, "That's Fayetteville schools." That's the first thing she said was, "That's Fayetteville. That's North Carolina right there. They're horrible there, and that's what they do." Wow, that's great. So,
Yeah, it was bad. It's actually I ended up having to pull him out of school that year because teachers started failing him because of, it just was like, he's autistic. He's trying to express what he's going through, and not that it's okay to scratch a computer screen, but I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I think you even said, "I'll pay for the computer," right? I think
I
you told
did.
me, and they still were saying, "No, we have to suspend him." He was only a
That's
young man at the time too. So.
Yeah.
for you to say that to even offer that, I'll pay for the computer, it's not that big of a deal compared to what he's going through, right? But that sounds fair, but that sounds fair towards a people in the system who's not given fairness back, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I commend you on that, and to be able to power through all of that and see and have a positive mindset throughout all of this, because I know it can kind of grow you to a rage, right? Because there's no justice, and when I think of the word sacrifice, I think of one gives all so that others benefit, right? There's no compromise there, and you weren't getting that from a system that was supposed to be by your side. So kudos to you, and many prayers, but thank you for sharing everything you did in the book. I'll definitely get on a train with Rich to read that book. And but man, I just think that the word justice and sacrifice are two big words in this.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. That means so much because like you said, it was, that was probably of everything, I think, watching your kids go through those things. That's the thing that almost killed me,
Yeah.
That was the moment when I think there were a few times with the school that I hit a wall where I thought I need to walk away because I'm going to, just
Mhm. Yeah.
I'll do more
Go
than
either
irate.
explode or have a heart attack. I don't know it.
get suspended right now.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
question in the chat right now is, what is or might be the repercussions from the government for what is in the book? And I know you addressed this in the book about the team leader who he was reprimanded, I think twice actually, but he was able to fight through it thanks to your investigative research and your father-in-law's help. He was able to beat both those reprimands and keep his rank and stay with the teams, I believe. But the two officers, the one that came to your house and boldly lied to your face, and then the senior leader of group commander, both of them, things happened to them as well as they moved up, didn't it?
Yeah. So Colonel Moses, who was part of the VTC, he was the group commander. He lost his career over it. And I get to see him at events sometimes, so that's fun. And and then the other one, Lieutenant Colonel Painter, I believe he didn't. I don't know that he had any repercussions from what I've heard. He just kind of disappeared, but I know he got out. So yeah, and he was the battalion commander.
From what I've seen on him was he was selected, but Senate actually blocked his promotion, so that kind of stalled him, pushed him out. So I think that also has to do with your investigative research. So that's another kudos to you, pat on your back, sticking up, like you said, for your boys, the guys on the team. Because if you guys didn't get together and get the real story out, that would have never happened, and the team leader would have went down in a ball of flames.
Yeah.
And the company commander as well.
Yeah. Well, and now I'm actually working. I'm starting a nonprofit, or I have started a nonprofit, and we're going to do emotional support animals for Gold Star teens, and then we're going Gold Star kids, and we're going to start with soft, just because that's the community, and then we'll spread from there once it grows. But on the side, we're going to also we're working on changing legislation to make military investigations more transparent, so that when an investigation is opened, it can't be conducted by the same command under which the incident happened, because that was the whole issue. AFRICOM essentially investigated AFRICOM in my husband's instance. So we're going to work on preventing that. So.
And those who don't know, Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson was a chemical soldier, as was I, a chemical soldier. LaDavid Johnson was a mechanic. He was like the jack of all trades. That's what Bird was for my platoon. He was the jack of all trades for my platoon. So it's kind of wild. And then Sergeant Dustin Wright, his brother, was out of the military when this happened, went back in as a chemical soldier, was stationed right here at Fort Campbell in 63rd Chem. So it's kind of this weird world we live in where we all kind of interlock and see each other at points. But as I was reading that and looking at that and checking stories as well, we all have this like interlock in life. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And a sad one.
Yeah. That's amazing.
What's the name of your nonprofit, since you brought that up? Or what's it?
It is Soldiers Alliance Foundation. And if you visit soldiersalliance.com, you can see all the, all the information on it. So we're just kind of, like I said, we're just getting going, but we've got a pretty good website put together. So, and we'll be adding more to it in the future.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Michelle, anything else you want to add for the audience before we let you have the rest of your evening back on the Pacific Northwest?
I think that's it. I think just, if you ever end up in my situation, which I hope you don't ever be intimidated by everybody. Just go after it. It doesn't matter who you are. I was a stay-at-home mom, and somebody just made me a little upset one day. So, you can do it.
Hope the bear things happen. So.
Yeah.
Michelle, thank you so much for taking your time tonight to hang out with me and RJ and share your story. And now you gave Bird homework to do for the rest of the week to read the book and then go back and forth with the documentary, see the differences of opinion in both of them. One thing we didn't talk about was the National Geographic filming that was going on while your husband was there, and he told you he wouldn't go on there because he didn't think he should be on TV. And then, of course, you wish he did, because then you could have seen him a little more. But that's hindsight's always 20/20. And that footage is actually in there to show how awesome the senior people were doing over there, which really irked me more. So,
yeah.
But thanks again. I didn't want to go on another diatribe, but I had to let that out.
No, that's good, because that's another little thing people can go and watch if they want to see more of the team. Is go and watch Chain of Command series on National Geographic. So
nice.
Bird, any last questions? Any last thoughts?
No, just a big thank you so much for sharing with us and sharing with the world your story and having the kahunas to get through that. So
thank you so much. And I appreciate you both having me on. I absolutely enjoyed this conversation so much.
Yeah,
it was
likewise.
Awesome. So have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Did you serve in the military? If so, you can obtain a free lifetime pass to more than 2,000 federal recreation sites. These sites are located across more than 400 million acres of public lands. including national parks, wildlife refuges, and forests. The lands host activities to fit any lifestyle: hiking, biking, fishing, camping, and much more. Gold Star families are also eligible for these free lifetime passes. Plus, they cover entrance fees for a driver and all passengers in a car, or up to 3 additional adults at sites that charge per person. Obtaining one is easy. Just go to the National Park Service website, nps.gov, or the National Park Service app.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are